Okay, so today we're going to talk about more in-depth domain and range. In the first video, we did very simple functions with domain and range, but since this is Algebra 2, we need to get a little bit deeper into more complex functions. So there's actually two notation styles that we're going to talk about. The first one I've already shown you in class. It's called set notation. It's with those squiggly brackets. And so you guys kind of already know how to use that set notation. The new one that I want to introduce is interval notation. If you want to go on to pre-calc or calculus, we use interval notation in these classes. So interval notation uses either curved brackets or square brackets, okay? And it's supposed to represent an interval. So for example, I'm going to look at this first graph here, and I want to find the domain of this first graph. So I have these two sticky notes here, and so I'm going to put them on the edges of the graph. So like this guy, I'm going to move it to right about there. Okay, that's where my function kind of drops off the face of the earth, is at -1. Okay, and then this arrow over here means that my function will keep going in that direction forever. So way over here to the right hand side is actually infinity. So my interval is going to be from -1 to infinity. Okay, now the tricky part with interval notation is you have to figure out whether it's a curved bracket or a square bracket. Okay, a curved bracket means that it doesn't actually hit that number. So if you think about a number line, and I'm at 0 and 1. So a curved bracket will get really, really close to that number, but it won't actually hit that number, okay? A square bracket means that that number is included in the interval, okay? So that's the difference between square and curved brackets. On this graph here, my function kind of drops off the face of the earth at -1. It never actually hits -1. It'll get really, really close, but it won't actually hit it. So we have a curved bracket there. And then always, 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 anytime you have an infinity, it also receives a curved bracket. Okay, we can never reach infinity, so it always has a curved bracket. Now you will write your interval, if you're talking about domain, you'll write it from left to right, okay, like you read a book. If we're talking about range, it'll go from bottom to top, okay, and so I'll get into range here in just a second. But let's look at another example. Let me bring my sticky notes down here. Okay, so let's look at this example. So I have this graph here. Let me move this guy out of the way. And I want to find the domain, okay? So if I look, so I'm going to start from the left and move to the right. So this arrow right here means that this graph is going to the left all the way. It doesn't stop. So to the left over here is -infinity, okay? So my graph is going to start at -infinity, and then it's going to go until it reaches this point here, okay, which that number is 4. So my first interval is going to be from -infinity to 4. Now I have a curved bracket around the infinity, and if you look, my graph never actually touches 4, so it's a curved bracket as well, okay? So that only describes this first chunk of my graph, okay? I'm having a hard time with these sticky notes here. It only describes this first chunk. I have to still figure out the domain of that second chunk there, okay? So that second chunk, it starts at 4, and then this arrow means that it keeps going to infinity. So it's going to start at 4, it doesn't actually hit 4, which is why we have the curved bracket, and it goes until infinity. Now, I have two intervals here, and so I need to connect them by a union. It's just a U symbol, okay? So that's how you would write domain if you have more than one interval, okay? let's keep going. Let's look at this guy here. So my domain, again, from left to right. So this arrow means that it's going to the left continuously. So I'm gonna, it goes from negative infinity, and then it keeps going, keeps going, keeps going, and then it stops right there at 3. Now, it actually hits 3. So my domain is going to be from negative infinity to 3. Again, a curved bracket around the infinity, but this function actually includes 3. So it's going to be a square bracket. Okay. Again, let's keep going. We'll do one more with domain, and then I'll talk about range. So this function is kind of weird, but these brackets, again, it's going to go this direction indefinitely. So it's going to start at negative infinity, and then it's going to go, 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 go until it reaches negative 5. Okay, so the first chunk of my domain is going to be negative infinity to negative 5. And because it hits negative 5, it does get a square bracket and then a curved bracket around the negative infinity. Now let's look at the second chunk here. So this graph, it starts at 4. Let me move some stuff around here. So it starts at 4, and then this arrow means that it keeps going that direction. So we're going to go all the way to infinity, curved bracket around the infinity, but that graph actually lands on 4, so that gets a square bracket and a union in between.